Hey, my friends, welcome to another day, which means another video. So if you don't know already, I am doing one video a day for the first 100 days of 2025. We're on day 8. Let's jump into it. So today's topic, little controversial, just a little bit, maybe, I don't know. It's just a sticky topic. I'm gonna dive into it because it is one of the biggest questions I get asked, and I'm gonna speak to my local friends. But if you're not in the Louisiana market, stick around because maybe it'll actually give you some questions about your market. So, a big question that I've gotten is, am I concerned about the state of the Louisiana real estate market? Meaning, you know, meaning basically that, am I worried about everything that's going on in Louisiana? And as a real estate investor, am I wanting to keep investing in this area? Okay, so let's address some of the issues, and then I'm going to end with telling you what I am currently doing and where my thoughts are. So let's talk through some of the issues. One of the biggest one is the insurance crisis. So my friends in Florida, California, and other parts of the country, you guys have seen this. We have been dealing with this insurance crisis, especially where I am in, the New Orleans area, South Louisiana. This insurance crisis has been going on since 2021, y'all. Like, so going on 4 years now of this. And I believe the longer this insurance crisis goes on, the more casualties there will be. We're already seeing it. I mean, yesterday I bought a house from a woman who eventually got behind on her payments because her payments went up because of insurance. Those are all factors. Okay. I know a lot of my rentals have gone from being, X amount cash flow to either a reduced amount of cash flow or to break even or to a negative. So those things are tough. Um, a lot of folks aren't able to handle that change in cash flow. So folks they're hating that squeeze from the insurance side. And the insurance crisis is one of those things where it's like before 2021, I used to go to my insurance broker. She would shop a policy around to 30 people. Now we're lucky if there's between 1 to 3 different carriers that would handle my policy. So a lot of insurers have left the state, and so because there's so few, basically those prices are sky high right now. Give you an idea, I have just yesterday I bought a 1960 brick on slab flood zone X, and the homeowners is 6,500 and the flood is 1,000 a year. 1960s brick on slab, and that's for a rental policy is 6,500, and that did not include liability. That only included the coverage, wind and hail and fire. I have to do liability separate, so that's going to be another $500. So 6,500 for the wind and hail, and the building coverage, 500 for liability, and then 1,000 for flood. I mean, so there we are. We're looking at 8,000 a year for a house that's worth 220, 250. I mean, that is absolutely squeezing our deals. The next thing we have is population decline. There has been I think some recent reports saying, hey, it's getting a little bit more positive, but a lot of people are leaving. We give them a lot of reasons to. I mean, there is a level here that people are exiting the area, and there's more exits than there are people who are entering and moving into the area, and so that is a concern, right? Because that kind of says, hey, what is the growth looks like? What is the economic, you're looking at things like economic growth, you're looking at like obviously population growth, all of those things. That's going to speak to demand for housing, and that ultimately, that's something you want to pay attention to. Specifically, South Louisiana has seen the population decline issues. Another factor is we're not really an appreciating market. The last stats that I saw is that we trend around a 1% appreciation, where the average trend nationwide is 4%. But like, I mean, some markets are 12+%. So we're definitely below par on some of that. So it's not like we have crazy equity plays with appreciation, and we definitely are struggling and capped at our cash flow because of insurance and property taxes. Every 4 years property taxes go get reassessed. They were just reassessed in 2024. So that was like kicking us when we were down. So obviously we also have hurricanes, and then as of recently, a few more tornadoes. But hurricanes, and those have been part of the insurance crisis. The Believe it or not, the bigger issue is not always flooding, but it's wind, and that's why with our policies, the biggest part is the wind and hail, not so much the flood. Although obviously flood has been an issue. And so, a more frequent storms are hitting. And again, like I said, tornadoes last year, there was a pretty serious tornado situation in Slidell, which is a suburb of New Orleans, where I'm from. And I mean, it hopped around some of my properties and I was sweating bullets. Thankfully, I did not have any major damage. Um, Another issue is we're not a very strong economy. We're very tourism based, hospitality, tourism, but we don't have a ton of big economic drivers. And then when we try to have those, there's a lot of NIMBYism, not in my backyard. And so, for example, we have two big economic drivers that are either currently in, you know, moving forward, or it's being fought. One of them is a big LNG plant down in Belle Chase. It's one of the largest. I mean, oil and gas is one of our big in Louisiana. I mean, my significant other is in oil and gas. Most people in Louisiana are like, if not 1 degree of separation from someone in oil and gas. So the big LNG plant down there, huge, major. That one already under construction, moving forward. But then the other one is in St. Bernard Parish. There's the port. We're in a phenomenal position to be a stronger port than we are. And there's looking to be a $2+ billion development of that port. But there's a lot of opposition to it. And in a lot of other ways. So we're not necessarily enticing a ton of business. Businesses are not flocking to our area for a number of reasons. We're not very business friendly in a lot of ways. And so, I mean, that has to do with a lot of things. And then, but if you look at it, and one of the state congressmen and I were talking about this at an event we were both speaking at, and he's like, we're going to take a look at Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. We are the weakest link. Obviously, Florida is booming. Georgia is strong. Alabama has been recently booming more. Mississippi as well, recently booming. Obviously, Texas is strong. We're the weakest link in the Gulf states. And the question is why? It has a lot to do, and I hate to be the one just to point to leadership. It has a lot to do with our leadership, right? It also has to do with really the economic development of our area, all around, our infrastructure. I mean, if you guys know, I have more than the fingers on my hand can I count the times that I hit a pothole in New Orleans and my soul left my body, and I actually apologized to my car because the pothole was that bad. And I mean, it can take you out. Our infrastructure is bad here. The utilities. I mean, I am amazed that like a bird can take out and take the power out for an entire region in New Orleans, and just how you know fragile our infrastructure is. And obviously there's geopolitical issues, right? And New Orleans is considered a blue city in a red state. But there's a lot of regulations. Airbnb for residential properties is all but dead in New Orleans. And so a lot of people are operating, for the few that actually got permits, then there's a lot that are operating illegally. And so then that has led to a lot of people, exiting, or, going to other types of furnished, midterms, or corporate rentals, and long-term furnished, stuff like that, or just overall selling. And then we had the landlord rental registry, which is the Healthy Homes program. We pushed back against that a lot, and so it's not, the ordinance is what it is today is not what they originally proposed, which was, I think, going to be a bigger situation. But I mean, so you've got regulations, you've got the government oversight, and so yes, I acknowledge that this is worrisome. Yes, I acknowledge that this is not an easy market to cash flow in. to build equity and cash flow, all sorts of things like that. So you're saying, okay, Courtney, like obviously you just made me depressed. You're talking about all these things. So Courtney, are you concerned? He goes back to the question. Courtney, are you concerned with the state of the Louisiana market? Yes, I am concerned, but it is not causing me to run immediately. I am not liquidating my properties, and I am not stopping buying. Here, let me break down my beliefs. I have considered other markets, specifically Mississippi and the Tampa, Florida, so the South Mississippi area. I can tell you right now, business in Mississippi is night and day from Louisiana. And I mean, they just operate at a different pace than us. I'll just be very honest. Uh, Different laws. Louisiana is just weird in general because of Napoleonic law, but it's Mississippi very different. And so I own properties over there. But I mean, managers are different over there. Title companies, all sorts of things. It is a different, I'm talking a different breed, son. It is something that you want to be mindful of. The grass is not always greener on the other side. So we have faced headaches over there. I traveled to Tampa down to go see my mentor Pete and some others multiple times. At this point, if I confirm another trip, I'm going down there from, monthly from February to June. And then I'll be back down there at least one or two other times for the rest of the year. So I go down there plenty of times throughout the year. I know that market very well. I've been going consistently to that market for years. And so I have looked at doing deals down there. I have not done a deal in Tampa, but it's one that I'm considering. Obviously, Florida is a very thriving market. Tampa's a thriving market. But right now that market is struggling. They just had the two major hurricanes hit them. Um, and although that equals opportunity, it also has a lot of hurdles that come with it. So there's just a lot that goes with looking at other markets. And so I understand the attraction, but I am not running on a whim emotionally to another market because that is how you get hurt, truly. And so I like to invest in what I know. And so one of the biggest benefits of me staying here is that I mean, these are neighborhoods I know. I understand. I'm not an attorney, but I understand the laws in Louisiana because I've been operating under them, right? I understand, I can find deals easily here. I can fund deals easily here. I've got a very deep network. I mean, my business is referral based and repeat based. So that's also difficult to go transfer that to another market. Um, and so I'm not leaving here quickly. Nor do I see myself leaving here fully. At least that is not in the plans, right? And so what am I doing? And let me break down my current plan. I am staying in Louisiana, continuing to buy it. Just bought one yesterday. I'm buying one in a few more days, and my pipeline's full. I'm gonna be keep buying in Louisiana, so no change there. I am open to, for example, South Mississippi and in the Tampa area, but I am not rushing into it, and I'm honestly not at this point. I'm not highly seeking it out. Okay. Because again, guys, there are pros and cons to distance, long distance investing as well. Again, the grass is not always greener. And although those are markets I know very well, I do not know them as well as Louisiana. And I do understand that there is risk to investing in something you know less and you don't know as well. One of the other things that I'm doing is I am improving my current properties. Is I am trying to buy better properties in better areas, and really just improving the quality and the location of my properties. Because yeah, this area may be tough, and we may have our challenges, but at least I can go, my goal is to go after the better properties in this area because there's always going to be people, living here. This place is not going to be desolate, right? Like overnight or anything. And we're not heading in that dramatic of a direction. But the reality there is going to be demand for nice houses and nice neighborhoods. And so I'm not speculating. I'm not, oh, let me go rush in the path of, oh, man, I'm really not trying to speculate very hard in Louisiana. I'm sticking to the fundamentals. But then there will be eventually some properties I'm going to cull from my portfolio. And in that culling, in that, really that pruning of my portfolio, you know, you guys know this, that's always been the plan anyway. That there's a lot of deals that I bought that were they were a part of the plan, they were not the plan, right? Like they were a supporting role. So those are things that I think about. Um, I'm being very mindful with the parishes that I buy in, and the areas that, I invest. I'll look, a lot of people, Orleans Parish, I mean, Healthy Homes Program, which is the landlord rental registry where you've got to have, you've got to register, get your property to the minimum standard that they have, all this stuff. Um, that's Orleans Parish. Um, you've got the Airbnb regulation. The big regulation is in Orleans Parish. Um, you've got a lot of other things that are happening. Look, permitting and doing renovations in Orleans sucks. I understand. Right now, my house is in Orleans Parish right now. Um, you know, there's also something to be said, as Warren Buffett talks about, when others are fearful, be greedy, and when others are greedy, be fearful. There's a lot of fear in the Louisiana market right now. The question is, can I capitalize on it? I've had a number of people reach out to me to make offers on their portfolio. Um, and a lot of them is because they're wanting to go to other markets, do I think that we should be doing that? No. I think unless you already have a very solid other market that you understand very well, unless you have a very strong team there, an established team there, that it's especially risky to do a full, liquidation and then moving there. Um, it's again, the grass is not always greener on the other side. It's really where you water it. And so I do think that there's some people who are emotionally making financial decisions, and that's not a fundamental I want to live by. And so that's my thought here today is, am I concerned? Yeah, I have some concerns. I am watching it. I'm being mindful and I'm making some pivots. But I do believe that I can still make money in this market. Um, and I'm gonna bring something up. Some of you saw my interview on my podcast with Chris Rude, who Chris is a very big investor out of Lafayette. And we talked about Louisiana. And he has let's call it a 3-5 year plan or something like that, to move to Tennessee, to still do business in Louisiana, but to eventually move to Tennessee. And I mentioned to him that I've had some thoughts about, really building a secondary market, maybe Tampa, something like that. In other stronger markets. Tennessee has a lot of very strong markets over there. And one of the biggest things I have thought through is a return on my skill set. So we talk a lot of times about return on equity, return on your investment. But a lot of times I say, look at my skill set. I'm a creative real estate investor, buy and hold investor, all these things. And the question there is, am I getting a good return on my skill sets? That's probably my biggest question, is not, where's the better place to go invest? It's really, am I getting a proper return on my skill set? And so those are some of the questions that I'm asking. And what I mean by that is, basically the effort it's taking me to buy houses. Sure, in the better markets, they're more saturated. So it does take a lot of effort there to get deals. The deals are not as easy to come by. But for example, in Tampa, from 2016 to 2019, if you had a property that was worth 100,000 in Tampa, it doubled to 200. And then from 2019 to 2024, something like that, it doubled again. So then now you have a property that was worth 100 in 2016, it's now worth 400. Look at that crazy appreciation. Now, granted, right now you would argue and say, "Hey, Courtney, how is Tampa doing? Is that property worth 400 right now? It may be worth 350. It may be worth 370. I do know they're having some compression there. the point there is that there is, basically growth in those markets. And so I have considered, and maybe what I may do down the line is I may buy some properties in other markets, maybe, and it be more of an appreciation game. A lot of my friends in Florida, they struggle with cash flow. They definitely get the appreciation part, but they struggle with cash flow. It costs more for them to get into deals, right? So again, not always greener. Um, and I asked one of my gray-haired mentors, I asked him, I said, "Hey, do you think that I'm doing myself a disservice by owning properties in Louisiana, based on the issues that we have?" And he goes, and he told me a story. And he goes, he had a guy, every time he goes to California, there's a guy that wants to introduce him when he speaks. And the guy came up and he goes, "Pete Fortunato changed my life in the 1980s when things were tough. He told me don't sell." And when you know, he had those properties. I think he had 12 or 20 properties in Hollywood. And the guy said, "And I didn't sell them. Now I'm a mecca millionaire. Thanks to Pete Fortunato. He gave me such great advice, all this stuff. I'm so thankful." And Pete, being the sarcastic guy from Boston that he is, um, Pete said, "Well, no one in Ohio tells me that." So um now, no shade to my Ohio friends, but it's like, so some markets, there is a part of that, Pete could have told someone in Ohio don't sell, and they had 12 to 20 properties and they wouldn't have been a mecca millionaire, right? So that story has stuck with me. And so I don't have full answers on this, is my point. I do have some questions still. But one of the things, bringing up that episode with Chris Rude on my podcast that I did, one of the things that Chris and I talked about was how if you can make it in this market, which is like a difficult market to, again, cash flow is stifled, um, of appreciation stifled, all that stuff. He's like, if you can make it in this market, he believes that you would do very well in other markets. I think that could be true. I'm also saying, hey, I've never operated in a very saturated market like a Tampa. And so before we wrap things up here, guys, I just want to encourage you, don't make decisions hastily. Don't make them based off of emotion. And then I am not a fan of having properties in like 30 states. And so pick a market. If you are going to pick it by design, and you need to be deep and understand that market very well, you need to visit it frequently, build a very strong team, because I've seen a lot of people get hurt with long distance investing because of the lack of those things. So those are my thoughts on this one. Let me know. Are you concerned about the Louisiana real estate market and the current state of it? Let me know in the comments below. I'd be curious to hear. If you're not from Louisiana, I hope you got some gems out of this, where you should be investing on purpose wherever you are. You should say, "Hey, no, I should be able to defend why I'm investing where I am," because that's really what this has boiled down to. When I'm in rooms with other folks, my California friends, my Florida, my Texas friends, my North Carolina friends, whoever, it's really hard for me to justify why I'm in Louisiana, but I've had to really build my position on it. And so this is the eighth video that I'm doing here in 2025. Stick around, videos coming out daily, and I hope you enjoy this topic. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. Have a great rest of your day.